It is honey harvesting time, guys. This is 3 years in the making, and I'm so excited to finally be getting some honey out of these hives. The tall hive is what we're going to be harvesting from, and it has so much honey in it. Wait till you see not just a honey super, but also a deep, completely full of honey. So this is going to be exciting. Alright guys, we are in the basement. Like most basements, we use it for a lot of storage, so you'll be seeing that in the background. These are our food tubs for the animal feed, where we store it down here to keep the mice out, at least in attempts to. But yeah, so this is where we are set up to start processing our honey. My neighbor is letting us borrow his hand crank extractor over here, so that's going to make things a lot easier. There's kind of like at least like 3 different levels of difficulty for extracting honey. The hardest being like by hand, where you're literally just like squeezing the honey out of the comb. Next up would be a hand crank extractor, which takes a lot of that work out of it. Makes it a whole lot easier. You just put the frames in, crank it, and the centrifugal force just flings all the honey out of your comb for you. Even better than that, the next step up is an electric crank extractor, which he is using, also has one of those, and he's using it at his house. So we're going to be using the hand crank here, which was super nice of him to let us borrow. So over here, we're going to be uncapping our honey. He also has a hot knife. It's electric, where it just kind of melts off the wax cap from the comb. And he said we could borrow it, but he's, like I said, he's also extracting right now, so I don't want to take that away from him while he's trying to use it. So I have this little red handle over here, is like just like a pick for scraping the caps off. Not as easy or as fast probably, but it works. So we're going to be taking the wax caps off, sticking it in here, spinning it out, pouring it through the filters here and into our buckets. Very excited to see how much honey we get. Just from that super alone that we pulled frames from today, he said we'll probably get at least like 2/3, 3/4 of a 5-gallon bucket full of honey from those. That's pretty exciting, because honey is our main sweetener of choice. We pretty much use it exclusively for just about everything. So we go through a lot of honey, and honey is expensive. So I'm super excited about this. And as I said, that deep box that was underneath this honey super is also cram-packed full of honey. It is so stinking heavy. So once we get these done, get all the honey spun out of them so they're empty, we're going to give those back to the bees so they can clean them up and refill them, because the fall nectar flow is just starting. So I kind of want to get through these fast so they can refill it for winter. And then we'll also get the deeps out at that time and start cranking them. So I'm going to go get me some frames. Make sure we didn't bring any bee hitchhikers with us before I bring them in the house. And then we'll get started. All right. Hopefully camera works well and doesn't fall over. It's literally propped on a bag of chicken feed right now. Alright, so here's one of our honey super frames. Isn't it beautiful? See how the They have covered all of the cells with a wax cap. That's how you know this is finished honey. Before it is capped, it is just nectar, and once it has dehydrated to a specific point that only the bees know, I'm sure somebody has figured out the percentage, but I don't know what it is. But the bees know once it has dehydrated just right, they will go ahead and put a wax cap on it to seal it in there, and it will store like that until they need it or until we harvest it. And this is a beautiful frame. It is completely full on both sides. This is an awesome one to be harvesting from. As I said, my neighbor has an electric knife for cutting these caps off. I do not. I'm going to be using this scraper to kind of scrape the caps off. And I'll be honest with you, this is my first time going through this whole process by myself. I did help the neighbor very briefly last year when he was harvesting, so I kind of saw how it was done, and I used his electric knife, his heat knife, to cut the tops off and everything, but haven't done it myself, never used one of these, so we'll see how it goes. Alright, I just got a conduit across here to kind of prop this on. It's a little wobbly, and I took that lid out from under there. Okay, that's better. As it gets fuller, it might be easier. I don't know. We'll see. For now, since there's no honey at the bottom, we can probably just do that. Okay. This will catch any extra honey that drips, as well as all of our wax caps. So we're just going to uncap this. Oh my goodness, look at that. Just basically scraping the top off. And the reason we like to kind of just scrape the tops off and use the extractor, not only is it easier than doing it by hand, but this way we're able to give the drawn out comb back to the bees after we've emptied it, and then they can reuse it, and it's a lot less work for them because they don't have to build it from scratch. Whereas if you're harvesting completely by hand and squeezing at it, you're going to destroy all of the comb and they have to start over. Yeah, just a gouge out of that. So this is not the best, not the absolute best way to do it, but we're learning as we go a little bit here. It's also like collecting a lot on here. They just it's actually a little bit easier scraping from the bottom up instead of top down. Okay. Look at all that honey. And whatever collects in this bucket, we can pour through the strainer later and still collect for use. All the little waxy bits will get strained out. I think that side's pretty good. Now we're going to turn around to the other side. This is a very messy process. Very sticky. Wow. This side was a lot better. I think this way works a little bit easier. Less messy. Oh, it's still messy though. Still messy. Just not destroying the comb as much in the process. I want to make sure I get all the caps off. Otherwise the honey can't come out. Okay, I think we mostly got that one. Right, now we'll put it in the extractor and get the next one. Well, that's pretty much the process. I returned the frames that are empty back to the hive so that the bees could clean them up and start filling them again with the fall nectar flow. And hopefully they'll get those completely filled up. That would be great. I checked on my other two hives before deciding whether or not to harvest from the deep that got filled. And the other two hives don't have enough stores for winter. I mean, they may after the fall flow, but just in case they don't, I went ahead and left that entire deep box, and I'm going to feed it to the hives for winter food, because I mean that's what it's for, right? I would much rather give them that than sugar water and artificial feed, because that's the feed that God designed them to eat, and I already have it. I don't have to spend extra money on it. I am perfectly content with sharing the honey with them in order to keep them healthy and to feed them naturally, because I mean we avoid processed sugars in our home, so why would I want to buy it to give to the bees? It kind of feels like it's defeating the purpose when that sugar water is going to go into my honey, you know? So that's just my stand. I know a lot of beekeepers do not agree with that, but that's how I'm going to play it this year. So for now, I'm going to be done harvesting honey for the fall. So yeah, we ended up actually getting about a half of this 5-gallon bucket full. So not quite as much as I was expecting, but that's okay. That's still like $100 worth of honey right there. So I'm good with that. Very grateful for it. Also, all the wax from the caps. So that can be used as well. So I'm really happy with that. Hopefully you enjoyed this and learning, seeing the whole honey harvesting process, and I hope that was enjoyable to you. Next week, hopefully, we'll be back to the goat content. So join us then. See you later.